Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. So the other day I was in the shop and I heard some kids talking, and they were probably 15, 16 years old. And one of the guys says, "What's so great about Dark Side of the Moon, anyways?" And his friends were kind of like, but I thought it would be a great idea for a video to kind of talk a little bit about just the greatness of Dark Side of the Moon, what makes it great, and why it is as iconic as it is. So before we get started, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and click the little bell down there, turn on your post notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. So Dark Side of the Moon is one of the most iconic covers anyone's ever seen. If you collect records, or even if you don't, this is an album cover everyone has seen. It's one that, unless you've been living under a rock your whole life, you're probably either familiar with this record or you've at least seen it. And so what makes it so great? Why is it something that you see everywhere? It all kind of starts out with Syd Barrett. So the original Pink Floyd lineup had Syd Barrett in there, and it didn't have David Gilmour in there. But Syd Barrett was their first front man, and he was an incredibly talented musician and songwriter and visionary. He was incredible. But he had his bouts with mental health, and after a couple albums, Syd Barrett left the band, or was kicked out. He departed from the band. Let's just say it that way. And it definitely affected the guys in Pink Floyd. You know, they brought Gilmour in towards the tail end of Syd Barrett's stay with Pink Floyd, and it definitely affected them a lot because he was their backbone. He was, like I said, their visionary, their songwriter, all that stuff. Without them, they had no direction, and they kind of didn't know what to do. They were kind of floating around for a few albums. So as they were coming into doing metal, Metal is an album that you can definitely hear those early influences of Dark Side of the Moon. They were starting to find their footing. They were starting to be a band together, learning to work off of each other's strengths and kind of write and play in harmony. They had been touring together for a while at this point, and they just kind of started clicking I mean, really jiving and clicking at this point in their career. So before they really hammered out Dark Side of the Moon and recorded all the songs and all that stuff, they really started playing with the material, just the basis of the material during live shows and jam sessions they have together. So they'd sit together for a while and just start playing some chords over and over again until they realized that a structure of a song was starting to come. And so, David Gilmour is very instrumental in that. And also Richard Wright, the keyboard, piano player, organ player, he was very instrumental in that as well. So anyways, as these songs started forming, Roger Waters was writing this incredible concept record. And together with all these elements, Dark Side of the Moon was born. It's David Gilmour's guitar playing. It's kind of morphed into this thing that definitely had a blues bass to it, but it also was very ethereal. And he was coming into this space rock identity with his guitar playing. It was incredible. It was so melodic and at times very simple, but it was so strong and appealing. And as a contrast to that, to his like ethereal, floaty guitar riffs and stuff, you had Roger Waters' really deep and thought-provoking lyrics, which really had this incredible duality on the record. And I think throughout Pink Floyd's career, the headbutting of Roger Waters and David Gilmour really came through in the music. Like you can hear definite parts where Gilmour was heavier and then definite parts where Roger Waters was heavier. But I think that also came through in the music as the reality of duality in any relationship at any time in your life. And so that really, I think, is something that really also grab listeners as well. So in addition to David Gilmour's really incredible guitar playing, with Roger Waters' incredible lyrics, with Nick Mason's precise, simple when he needed to be simple, complex when he needed to be complex, drumming and percussion. You also had Richard Wright's piano compositions, and he was such a huge driving force in the band as far as like writing the music itself. He was an incredible composer, wrote beautifully, but he also was a big fan of jazz music. So a lot of these chord progressions were born out of his love for jazz. And I mean, he talks about how some of the chord progressions he came to him while he was listening a lot to like Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. And so all these members coming together and being able to bring these strengths from different areas in and channel it in on one concept was incredible. This album, it was simplistic and it was open. It left room for emotion. It left room for the listener to just relax and chill, and really created an experience for the listener. I remember as a kid, turning this on when I was in those angsty teenage years of confusion, turning this record on and laying on my back on my bedroom floor and just letting it happen, and that's what a lot of listeners were able to do, is just like almost turn off everything from the outside world and just experience this record, because it was so warm and it was so inviting and it was so simple. And like I said, just open. That was one of their main goals with creating this record, is it would be something that wouldn't be one of these rock and roll records that was just like as much as you can cram into one song or whatever. It was something that really flowed just like your emotions flowed. So all the different themes in this album, you had greed, with money, you had death, you had tragedy, you had loss, and you had mental health issues and insanity. And so a lot of the album was based off of their relationship with Syd Barrett. And so a lot of the writing and a lot of the lyrics is kind of a tribute to Syd Barrett, and is written about Syd Barrett and about his struggles, and just kind of telling that story a little bit. And it goes, it ties in really well with the concept of life and time. The record starts with a heartbeat and it ends with a heartbeat. And like on the cover art, in the inside, you've got that heartbeat, you've got that pulse that goes all the way through. And so not only did the artwork also lend a hand to the concept, but the writing had that's the point of a concept album, is it to just flow and have one driving point behind the whole album. And this one just flowed so beautifully from one song to the next. And so it took the listener on a ride to where it wasn't like you were picking out singles. It was something that just really flowed really well. And with having all of these different strengths from different areas that each musician brought, it also touched on a lot of different genres. And it was heavy. Certain songs are heavier on blues or jazz or influences from all different spaces. But I mean, it's considered a prog record, but it's one that a lot of prog is like really out there. This is a prog record that was progressive, but also very, very palatable to where anyone could listen to it and enjoy it. So because it touched on so many different genres, it pulled in a very wide array of listeners, and it just had a huge audience because of that. Another huge part of the album's success is the cover art. Richard Wright said when they were talking about what they wanted the cover to be like, they talked to the artist and they just said, hey, we want something that is simple but bold. And so he went and he pulled some things together, and as soon as he presented it to the whole band, they all immediately agreed, boom, that's it, that's perfect. And he said that he kind of got this idea from Pink Floyd's reputation of being a light show band, of having a lot of different lights in their shows, and this was just able to flow really well with that pulse. Also, apart from it being just incredibly captivating in just what it is, you also had a lot of really cool inserts. So you've got the posters, which you know, they open up and I'm not going to open these up, but they open up and they look like this. And you've got stickers and everything that really all pulls back into this concept that this record was. All that translated into taking Pink Floyd to this whole nother level, to where, I mean, this is the longest charting album of all time. It had 736 consecutive weeks on the charts, going 14 times platinum. This really shot Pink Floyd into a whole nother world of stardom. I mean, their records being played everywhere. When they had this record and they put everything together, they said they didn't really want to have a single out. They wanted it to just be presented as it was. But the record label said, we really want to promote this album. We really want to make this one of the biggest albums of the year. And so we're going to pull a single out. So they did. The two singles was Money and Us and Them. So Money, it starts off with all these cash register sounds and all this stuff. It was originally written to be like a real bluesy number, but as they produced it and they worked on it, it became what it is, and a huge classic rock hit. Us and Them is really funny because Richard Wright actually composed this while they were doing the soundtrack for Zabriskie Point. They put on the screen this depiction of battle and violence, and he sat down at the piano and started playing this beautiful Us and Them, and the director was like, no, that's too sad, that won't work, scrap it. And so they kind of took that away and they brought it back out, and it became the amazing song that it is today. What really set this album apart was the journey that this band took from having just a really big disaster in the early stages of the band, losing their visionary, and kind of finding their own way together and forming unity, and writing this album together and being on the same page and vibing really well with each other. And this is just like the peak of their creative success. They were using instruments they'd never used before. They were using tape loops. They were using sequencers. They were using synthesizers. They were working together to like pioneer these new instruments. Back then, sampling wasn't a thing. And so the producer, Alan Parsons, which you may have seen his records, Alan Parsons Project Records, but I think one of his huge strengths is as a producer. But they're in Abbey Road Studios cranking this thing out, and Alan Parsons actually had to get all the sound effects like the clocks and the cash machines and all this stuff. He had to physically splice this tape to get these sounds. And so they were doing things that was innovative for that time, but they were also like having fun and like really cutting their teeth in this creative process together. And for the first time in their career, really all moving forward towards the same goal. And so that's what makes this album really great. It's not the sales, which the sales is a huge indicator that they not only reached out to fans, but they acquired lots of new fans. And people from all walks of life bought this record. I buy record collections all the time, and I'll be buying a classical collection and find Dark Side of the Moon in it. I'll be buying a jazz collection and find Dark Side of the Moon in it, because so many different people respect it and they love this record, and it's considered just a huge influence in music and changed the trajectory of music from then on. So it's not just about the sales. It's about the writing of the album. It's about the way that it was put together, and it was also about how it interacted with so many people, how it resonated with so many people. And that's what real art does. I mean, that's what real art is for, is to convey emotion to people in the best way and to reach out to people. And that's what they did. I mean, this album so effectively tapped into people's hearts and just let them open up to this record. And I mean, to me, when I put this record on, it's like a heartbeat. It's like my left arm. I mean, I hear it and I just remember things from the past, but I mean, I can hear every note coming. I know every word of it because it was such a huge part of my development musically, and I know it has been for so many other people. I would sit here and name to you how many people would say that this was a huge influence, how many other artists would say this impacted them in their compositions, their music writing, but I would be here all day because it is everyone. So what's so great about Dark Side of the Moon? Well, that's it. It's a great work of art, inside and out, from the artwork, from the actual cover, to the inserts, to the lyrics, to the guitar playing, to the mastering, to the engineering, to every single aspect that made the album what it was perfect. Hope this answered you guys' questions. Hope this was fun for you guys to watch. If you enjoyed watching this video, like I said before, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram. We're always posting really cool records that we're getting in the shop. And just thanks. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching this video. We will see you guys next time.